My name's Nick Wilson. I'm a veteran and I served 14 years in the Royal Logistic Corps in the Army, where I deployed on several tours around the globe, including specifically Northern Ireland, Kosovo, Iraq and Afghanistan. Consequently, due to actions during this and things I'd seen, situations I've been involved in, I was diagnosed officially with post-traumatic stress disorder 3 years or so ago. When I first got out of the army, initially looking back now, I know that I was deflecting on signs and symptoms, and I worked so hard and I kept myself occupied all the time, and I found that by keeping my mind occupied I didn't have to face or accept the signs and symptoms, which were glaringly obvious. This led to me ending up suicidal in rehabilitation with combat stress, which is a military organisation, and it's taken me, that was 2 years ago next week, and it's taken me 2 years to get on this journey. Trying to find help. It's not just trying to find help, it's accepting that you need help, and it's taking that step, and there's a lot of support out there, loads of support out there, in fact possibly too much, and it can become very overwhelming for those, for some, when they go out there and search for it, because you've got to be very proactive. You need to do this yourself. Not many people are going to come to you and sort out your problem. It is very much, you have to take responsibility for your own well-being, identify that something's not quite right, and take that step. But I totally get that you don't want to go to a GP, you don't want to go into a professional services. There's accepting and there's accepting, and making it official by going to a professional or the NHS can be a step too far sometimes. So you've got local support groups, which is sort of fine, but then you've got a lot of people who are recluse and they don't want to get out of the house, they don't want to see other people. And then so trying to find help then, and then going online, and then you're just directed to websites, and the websites signpost you to other stuff, and you end up having to read so much information sometimes. So there's a lot out there, but that in itself can be really overwhelming and really distressing. Instead of trying to find help or an organisation that can provide professional long-term assistance, being able to actually just reach out and have an opportunity to go and speak to others online, and an online community they can just talk to, an app that you can just open up on your phone, log in and speak to someone, to search for someone who's close to you geographically, maybe, who's in your area, and to just have a chat informally, and maybe create that kind of rapport and bond that might actually lead you to making a friend. If you've got no social support, no social network, no family, no friends, because you've pushed them all away, etc., and then actually having the app to be able to do that, which can lead to that, is actually very powerful. So to have that kind of online community, and just to have someone to be able to talk to, or people to be able to talk to that can relate, who aren't going to judge you, who aren't going to try and fix you or to take control of you or tell you what to do, but just to go, yeah, totally fine. I know how you're feeling. Yeah, you know, I think of suicide every day, and it just winds me up. I had a really bad night last night, or, you know, if you can't sleep, then maybe, you know, you go onto your app and there's someone there else who can't sleep, who's having night tremors, and you just kind of speak to them about it, and they can speak to you about it, and, you know, just that might be enough for you to then be able to get a couple of hours sleep, you know. So it can be difficult, but having an app like that can be very powerful to remove the stigma involved with mental ill health, to try and reduce the discrimination that many people feel and are subjected to. Men are statistically the most stubborn and the most likely to commit suicide, and the highest suicide rates are actually for men between the age of 20 and 45. You know, it's a very scary thought, and that up to 15 people a day complete suicide, and there's more deaths in suicide. There's more suicide deaths than what there are people who die in road traffic incidents in the UK. And the UK has the highest suicide rates in Europe. So if you look at all those stats, it's time that us men sorted ourselves out. Accept it, own it, and do something about it. And doing something like using this app, like putting some of your angry thoughts or some of your sad feelings or something like that through this app, and just writing them down and then posting them anonymously, things like that can help tremendously. So you don't have to take the full step and go to your GP and take drugs and all this rest of the kind of stuff and get on antidepressants. There's small things that you can do. I know it can be scary, trust me, as a man, I know it can be scary to even accept it within yourself, that there is something wrong. I ignored it for 2 years or so, and end up in a suicidal mess. Don't do that. But there are little things that you can do to prevent that from happening. You don't have to take a huge step of going to your GP. You don't have to concern yourself and get extra stress, worried about being on antidepressants and what the GP might say, having to go and see a shrink or anything like this. You don't have to worry about that kind of thing, okay? Using an app such as this to be able to write anything down is extremely powerful. You know, one thing that I recommend through my business, and one of the top tips for through CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, is to write a journal and to write things down. The thing with writing things down is, if it's a really bad thought, and you will get them, you will have them, sometimes you just don't want to reread that. You don't want to accept or recognise that that's come from you and that's how you just, in that moment, at that time, it could be, I feel like killing myself. You don't want to write that down in a journal, because you'll have to reread it. Some people do, and that works for them, and that's great. You can just write that down and send it out there. And then you don't have to worry about seeing it again. But more importantly, it takes that off your mind. And if we just take that first step forward, if we just take that little bit, okay, and then we do another little bit the next day, and another little bit the next day, and this continues, this will build up and build up. And I'm not saying it's going to fix you, but it will help. And it's the start of something. And that's the important thing, is to start, is to take that first step forward. It doesn't have to be a big step, but as long as it is a positive step forward, that's all that matters.